My hair's like not too bad, but it's annoyingly wild. Usually at this point I just get a haircut. I've been lagging on that because I can't decide whether or not I want to just go buzz cut and just save money and time, or schedule an appointment and get a real haircut. So anyways, what's up, crew? Welcome to episode 11 of the Reload Prep. My name is John Connie, aka Bigman Syndrome, and today I wanted to sort of talk about a topic that came up today on Instagram. A few people are reposting it, and I did as well, and I ended up sharing a little bit of my story as far as what the topic surrounds. I think the original poster, let me see, I'm going to go back. So I reposted from Joe Rogan, who reposted from, I reposted from Pratt, which is Chris Pratt, which is me, but actually Chris Pratt. And then he reposted from Joe Rogan, who I believe, let's go into his, he reposted from Joe Schilling, which I don't know who that is. Looks like he's a fighter. Just read this. Please read in bold. Special request to all you kids returning to school in the next few days. If you see someone who is struggling to make friends or being bullied because she doesn't have many friends, or because they are shy or not as pretty or not dressed in the most in clothes, please step up, say hi, or at least smile at them in the hallway. You never know what that person might be facing outside of school. Your kindness might just make a big difference in someone's life. Repost if you agree. So this is obviously going around a lot. Joe Rogan's probably one of the people who resulted in that. Joe Schilling has 173,000 followers. Joe Rogan has 7.3 million. Joe's just got, major impact right now. He's got an amazing podcast. He's pretty influential, and I feel like the reason why is because he's so center. But anyways, talking about the topic. So I decided to repost it, not just repost it, but also share my story. So I was heavily bullied I think towards the end of elementary school and throughout middle school. I don't think there was ever a time in middle school where I was not bullied. And it wasn't until sophomore year of high school, maybe even middle of freshman year of high school, that it started to taper off. And I attribute that mostly to football. Football, not being a part of football, making me popular, but because of what I went through during practices or in games and the mental toughness that you gain from football, changed that path. But let's focus on that middle school portion. Like I said, that was the main time that I was just heavily bullied. It was probably because I started to gain more weight outside of elementary school. So to make this a little bit easier so I don't go off on tangents, I'm going to go ahead and read what I put in my Instagram post if you don't follow me at Bigman Syndrome, and then sort of expand as I go, because I wanted to be as precise as possible in the Instagram post, but I'll go ahead and expand here a little bit. So first, I said, share a little something with you. I was bullied big time in middle school. Every day was a new challenge. I had no understanding of how to handle it. That age is so confusing. And so I guess I'll just break it up into each little section that I have in the Instagram post. Here it is for reference, if you want to know. So, every day was a new challenge. I mean, there was certain bullies that were just, broken records, and they do the same thing every single day. And it wasn't even only the students. It was teachers as well. There was times where, because I was just a very sensitive kid. I don't know what happened, what made me so sensitive. I actually see it in Dylan a lot, so it must just be the way that our brains are wired, or how our hormones sort of just kick in. But at that age, you just don't fully understand what's happening. So you handle it however your mind decides to handle it. There's no real decision making. You just decide that, man, that hurts. For me, every day in middle school was literally like a challenge to figure out whether or not I was gonna have a good day, which was very, very, very rare, or a really bad day, which is pretty much all the time. Long story short, I bounced around friend groups. At one point was popular because of my odd athleticism / speed and capture the flag, but ultimately remained the fat kid with feelings. So this one, it's like there was one turning point in me being bullied, and what was really interesting about that too is how do I want to frame this one? the story's kind of all over the place. So in elementary school, I had a best friend who lived up the street from me, and I was at his house all the time, had sleepovers all the time. We were just really good freaking friends. When middle school happened, he became the popular kid. I, was held back with the fat kid vibe, and things changed. He never really bullied me, but the friends that he was with were bullies. And it was kind of like one of those stereotypical stories that you see on TV shows where, oh, we were best friends in elementary school, and then he became friends with blah, 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 and all this stuff. And it wasn't until this one point where Capture the Flag came out, and I think I've told this story possibly before on the channel or a bunch of other people. I was the last person picked on the first time they did Capture the Flag. I don't even know why I wanted to play. I think it's just because I liked that kind of thing. I was a skateboarder, a biker, and a rollerblader, so like, Capture the Flag, why not? That first game, I was the last one picked, but I was just flying. Like, I'm a tall guy, I might be big, but I'm fast, so I was one of the first people to get to the flag, and one of the first people to take it back, and I think I got it a few more times, and from that day forward, people saw me differently. They're like, oh, geez, like, he could actually be an asset. And the next time they brought Capture the Flag out, because it obviously wasn't a daily activity, this was during recess, they brought it out again, I was the first one picked. That was really cool. It was like, it was a turning point a little bit, but that lasted not very long. Like, I think maybe that year, maybe shorter, I don't even remember fully, but that was, I became friends again with my elementary school best friend, went around with them for a little while. I think actually, now that I remember, if I remember correctly, for a while I would just go with them. We'd walk around the big huge grass field that we had in middle school, and there was this one time where a bunch of them went up into like there was like this brushy area. People would go up there and then they'd come back, and come to find out, they were like, I think they were smoking weed or they were doing some really shady shit back there, and I think that made me somewhat uncomfortable. I don't know that I ever asked about it, but when I saw that happening and I knew that it was not good, I just sort of like backed away from it slowly, and I think that's when I went back to being really good friends with Sam. So that story sort of sums up the bouncing from groups of friends. But I was like, I'm sure I can't remember hanging out with that group of people that much. Like, I don't remember those days, but I just imagine that I was probably just the guy who just sort of follows them around. I try to find them at recess, and then I just go around with them all day, and who knows if they actually liked me. But that's also the mindset of someone being bullied. It's like you're constantly paranoid that you're the one being targeted. None of this is really chronological either. So this next segment, I said, got beat up a few times, cried for my mom on the way to field trips, barfed at the Getty Museum, and felt like I always seemed to be targeted. So kind of a segue from the last one. When you're bullied, so this is for anybody listening who kind of wants to understand the mindset of someone who's being bullied, constantly feel like you're being targeted. Like, you just, for whatever reason, your mind is like, somebody makes eye contact with you really quickly. I remember this in high school. Like, I had a very, very specific moment that I remember forever. For some reason, someone made eye contact with me and like made a weird face, and I automatically go to the worst case scenario, that they're talking shit in their head about me for something that I did. They could have just honestly been wandering while the lecture was happening. Like, there's no reason for me to think that they were talking or thinking of me. But like, in middle school especially, when you're the person always being picked on, like, constantly, you automatically assume that people are probably thinking, there she is, the old air conditioner. I hope the new house, I think the air conditioner is actually on the back of the house, not near the garage, so that's gonna be great. Thinking back too, I almost think that there's a lot of times where, rightfully so, I was targeted. Not that you should ever bully anybody, and not that it's okay for you to bully somebody, but sometimes there's things that people do that it's just, if you weren't to do that, you probably wouldn't be bullied. For example, the stuff that I said, crying for my mom on field trips. There was several field trips I didn't go on. I think it was 5th grade space camp or whatever, 5th grade space camp, 6th grade something, and then I went to I made it on the bus and went off to Big Bear. There was a camping trip, but I was crying almost the entire way on the bus. It wasn't until the next day when after I got yelled at by one of the teachers because I was crying. She was crazy, Mrs. Strange, for anybody who's from Hermosa Valley. she yelled at me for being kind of weepy and crying for my mom, and told me that if I didn't eat, I was going to starve and my stomach was going to eat itself. She's a science teacher, so makes sense. But that was one of those examples. And then I think one of the last things that I ended up doing, and then we just said, screw it, I'm not going on any trips, I'm not doing any of these things, was I didn't want to go to the Getty Museum. It's a quick little field trip. My mom decided to drive me there, which, thinking back, I was waving to the kids in the bus, like we were right behind them, and if anything, they might have been making fun of me, but again, paranoid thoughts, they probably weren't thinking anything of me. When we got to the Getty Museum, I opened the door to the car and threw up, and then we left. And of course, that was the subject of bullying for a little while. Like, a kid named Zach, I'm gonna drop names but no last names, he would literally pass me in the halls just making barf noises. Okay reason, when you're an adult you understand that that's just poking fun at somebody for, you know, doing something silly, but when you're a kid you just don't know how to handle that stuff. I'm gonna try to get through these a little bit quicker because I'm starting to talk a little too much as usual. Here's a defining moment as someone being bullied, and sort of one of those things that you think back on and you wonder, like, all the different scenarios. One day I told a friend that I hated Ian B. So we're just going to leave it at that. His name was Ian. She asked me if I had a gun, would I shoot him? To be completely honest, I don't remember exactly what I said, but apparently it sounded like a strong yes. The next day, I don't have all these words, but I'm going to elaborate a little bit more. The next day, my mom and I were called into the office. We met with the principal and then Ian and his mother. Here's the kicker. He was bawling, like literally crying the entire time. Which was shocking to me because he was like one of the main bullies. Like, this guy and then another guy, Lucas, those two were like the main bullies on campus, and I was one of the main targets. There's a few other guys, but those two, just, I saw them every day, all the time, and it was just nonstop from them. But this kid Ian, he's sitting there crying. And I said, thinking back, I'd like to say I wouldn't have the will to carry out a shooting if I had access to a gun, but some days were just absolutely unbearable at school. So that's one of those things. It's like, when I think back to my middle school days, I remember so many days of just crying, feeling like absolute shit. And I only remember that at school, though. So when I got home, I think all of that went away. So that might have been part of it. Because I didn't have a broken home. You know, I had a mom. Definitely didn't have my biological father, which is a whole other story. I don't know if I'm ever going to go into that, but maybe I will. I had a stepdad who was really cool, super chill, played music. That's why I love guitar. So I imagine that if I was in a tough family, like one that my mom cared a lot. She cares a lot still. And if anything, that might have kept me from being, you know, one of those statistics of somebody bringing force to the school that didn't care about a student. But again, I don't know, like, I can't think of a time that I actually thought about trying to find a way to do something. That it was just that one day that somebody brought it up, and I believe school shootings had happened before. I think Columbine had happened sometime prior to this day. And she just asked me, because I told her I hate Ian, and she asked if I would do something, and I was like, I honestly don't know how I said it, but clearly it scared her. So it's a really interesting thing to think back on, because I don't think that I would ever do something like that. So I don't even know how much further to explain that. Like, it's just such a weird thought that happened in my life. I don't reflect on it that much, except for today. It just so happened to like decide to share the story because of what people are reposting, and it's crazy to think that happened in my life. Somebody asked me if I would be a shooter, and apparently they thought I was like seriously saying yes. And the worst part about all of this, like, I didn't include this in the post, is after that happened, I think I got suspended for a few days or a week or something. I don't think the bully got any treatment other than being scared shitless about me. He continued to bully me later. The school did nothing, and that to me is the root of the problem, along with parents. The mom had no idea, nor did she believe that her son was a bully. obviously it's her son's word against mine, so she's not going to believe anything they say. If somebody came up to me and told me that Dylan or Madison were bullies, I would question the heck out of them. Honestly, I don't know if she did or not question him, but like I would dig down and figure out what that is. I'd also apologize to the other family, like, hey, sorry this is happening, I had no idea. But like, to completely disregard it is ridiculous. On top of that, like, there was no change in how things worked at that school, and I think that's the biggest mistake. If somebody approaches you and says that I think somebody's a potential shooter, like they might take action on their hatred for the school and the people in it, you would think that there'd be some sort of like wake up call. There wasn't. So that to me is a pitfall. We're getting so many updates on new shootings. It's almost like routine. Must be the 15th of this month because there's another shooting. How many dead? Oh, shoot, pray for them. When's it gonna end? I don't know what the answer is. I don't think banning any guns is the answer, but another topic. I ended this with sort of anecdotes. Two things. A lot of the times the bully is struggling too. Their way of letting it out is unfortunate to those who take it, but they too are just scared. That day, Ian showed me that he was simply just scared. I made a potential threat and he was scared. Now, of course, the severity of that threat should scare just about anybody, but I think the root of their meanness, their anger, their whatever is simply just them scared of something, and it's coming out in a certain way. But that's also just my opinion. I think it's just the way they're handling life, whether it's because they got a broken home and they bring that to school or something else. Number two, I always had a friend through the rough times. They were on my wavelength, so maybe that's what kept me centered. Like I said, I had a best friend in elementary school. We became best friends again for a little tiny bit, and then right after that I became best friends with Sam. He's kind of what fueled my passion for video stuff. Like, I was always asking him what he was doing to see if we could do a video. We're still really good friends now, and if it wasn't for him, I probably would have had a worse time in school. There's a few other people in middle school, like the whole groups of friends thing hopping around. There was a guy, Mark, who was a really good friend for a long time. Like, some other guy became friends with him and hung out with us for a while, and it slowly became his friend making fun of me all the time. So I just found my way out of that friendship. I haven't talked to him in a long time. I want to see if he still lives in LA. Maybe catch up with him one of these days. Having a friend obviously helps a lot, and that's what that post was all about. That's why so many people are reposting it. Is, in a way, that's like a very, very up there thought. Like, I had a few people ask me, like, there was one time a kid was just going at it with me. He was making fun of all kinds of things. I was crying really hard. We started class and I was still crying. Like, my head was down. I was like sobbing. And a girl asked me, "Are you okay?" And I don't even remember what I said to her, but like, in that moment, it didn't really help. Nothing ever really helped. I don't even know what the solution is there. Like, based on that post, I don't know that it is as simple as just acknowledging somebody who's going through a rough time. I think the biggest thing that people can do is, if you know that somebody is a bully, be a freaking tattletale. If it's to a certain degree, like making fun of somebody randomly here and there, and that other person isn't really like taking it too hard, no big deal. But if you notice for a week that the same person is picking on the same person, and those two people are just having, the bully is having a great time and the other kid is like, he looks like he's struggling, that's when you need to tell somebody. Because I don't have an audience that this applies to. Please pass it on to your kids or talk to them about it. Like, tell your kids or your friends' kids to tell somebody that somebody's struggling. Because at the end of the day, those kids don't have the capacity to understand what's happening. The bully's gonna bully. The person being bullied is always gonna just take it, because what else are we gonna do? And then the last thing I said, bonus. I am in a great place at 31, finding success in business, beautiful wife, 2 amazing kids. So for those who are being bullied, know that there is a chance for you to have a normal life. Like, you're not going to forever be bullied. I think I still feel like I'm a target. That's just paranoia sticking with me forever. I still think people are thinking bad thoughts when they're probably not thinking of me at all, but that's just how it is. And then these last two things I say to the bullies: get your shit together. I'm sorry if your home life is rough and you gotta take it out on who you deem to be weak, but understand that most of who bullied me are now bums that can't figure out adult life. And then I said to those being bullied: get your shit together. And it goes both ways. No one cares how you feel. The world will keep spinning while you cry. Just know that you will find peace over the years and be in a better spot than those who decided to mess with you. Now, of course, that's not 100% true. Some of the bullies that I do know are successful, are doing what they want, what they love. But there's a ton of them I see on Facebook and I'm like, woo, what happened there? And of course, some people who are being bullied will go on to live depressed lives because they let it defeat them. If I had one more thing to kind of put out there, kind of the reason why I wanted to do this video is simply this. Like, if I could speak to the people being bullied specifically, because that's the world that I belong to, find it in yourself to block the noise. I wish I knew as much as I do now, because I would have been in a much better place. Don't let too much get to you. Obviously, it's hard to just shut everything out because sometimes they can be pretty relentless, but if there's a way for you to just understand that most of the time they're just joking. Sometimes they're trying to be mean, but now in my adult life, I know the difference between being an a-hole about something that you're picking on someone about and joking around with them. You know, I bully my friends sometimes now because it's what we do. I wish it wasn't what we did, honestly. Like, when I do it and then I think about it sometimes, I think back and I'm like, why the heck did I say that? Even though that person's kind of a d- sometimes, why did I have to say that to them? Like, why is it our culture to pick on each other? Here's the example that it always sticks in my mind. We were at a bachelor party. We're all going out. It was kind of early, so we're just like all by ourselves, a group of, I think, maybe 12 dudes. And the bachelor, which is even more funny that he's the one that I was picking on, he's wearing a fluorescent green, basically crop top with, sleeveless. And I look at him and I go, out of those of us who are married, if we were to lose our girlfriends and our wives, you would be the most hopeless. Everyone cracked up, so it was a great joke, but I don't know how he took it. It looked like he was fine with it because he's a tough skinned guy. But like, that was harsh, And I'm not saying that we need to go to like the most sensitive place on earth and not poke fun at each other. But like, there's this culture that we have that we have to be funny enough. So we gotta throw some jabs that'll hurt. So I wish that wasn't a thing. I don't know that was a point, but at the end of the day, we all just need to chill out a little bit. Those who are bullying, just peel it back a little bit. Let someone know that you're just joking. And if it went too far, apologize and walk away. Obviously, that's never going to happen. Bullies sometimes don't even know that they're being bullies. That's a whole nother thing. So that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're new, join the crew. And if you're not new, tap the like button, leave a comment, share this video. Those are things that help grow the crew. Until the next one, I'll see you later, crew. I think I'll put a link down below for ways to reach out to get help. Also, if you're being bullied, I don't know if I even have anyone that's in high school or middle school even. That'd be kind of wild. I'll leave my Discord link down below. Join the crew Discord, and if you just want to chat, by all means, I'm open to chat. I don't know that I'll be 100% available, but I'll try to make myself available for anybody who needs it. So, link down below for the Discord channel. Time to work out. Not gonna film it, but I'm gonna do it because it's really quick. 10-minute workout. Gotta love those.